Ever wondered how many of the things we believe in are actually myths? It's astounding how many everyday facts might not hold water when put under the microscope of truth. From old wives' tales to misconceptions passed down through generations, our lives are woven with beliefs that might not be as they seem. The world is a fascinating place, teeming with truths waiting to be discovered. So buckle up, folks. Prepare to have your mind blown as we debunk some common myths. First up, we have the myth that swallowed gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. Now, isn't that a sticky situation? This age-old tale has been circling playgrounds and classrooms for decades, causing children and even adults to think twice before swallowing that minty, fresh piece of gum. The myth goes something like this: if you swallow your gum, instead of spitting it out, it will stick to your insides and sit in your stomach for 7 long years. Quite a daunting thought, isn't it? But let's unravel the truth behind this myth. While it's true that gum is not digestible, what this really means is that your body can't break down the synthetic components of the gum. But here's the catch: just because it can't be digested, doesn't mean it stays in your stomach. In reality, it behaves much like other food that isn't fully digestible. Think of corn kernels, for instance. Ever noticed how they sometimes make a reappearance even after you've eaten them? That's because they pass through your digestive system relatively untouched. But they don't take up permanent residence in your stomach. They're merely passing through. The same goes for gum. While your body can't break down the synthetic components, your digestive system continues to move it along. It enters your stomach, then the small intestine, and finally, the large intestine, before making its grand exit. This process usually takes about 1 to 2 days, a far cry from the 7 years suggested by the myth. Now, we're not advocating for you to start swallowing gum on the regular. It's always best to dispose of it properly. But if you do accidentally swallow it, there's no need to mark your calendar 7 years into the future. So there you have it. The myth that gum stays in your stomach for 7 years? Busted. So, next time you accidentally swallow your gum, no need to sweat it. Scene script. Next, we tackle the myth that humans only use 10% of their brains. Let's dive into this widely perpetuated belief. The concept suggests that 90% of our brain is just lazing around while a small portion does all the heavy lifting. It's an alluring idea, isn't it? Imagine unlocking that dormant potential and becoming a superhuman of sorts. Now, where does this myth come from? It appears to be a misinterpretation of neurological research from the early 20th century. Scientists were puzzled by the fact that, while the brain uses up a significant chunk of the body's energy, they could only attribute specific functions to a small portion of it. Over time, this morphed into the notion that we're only using 10% of our brains. But let's unravel this myth with the help of modern neuroscience. Contrary to the 10% claim, we use virtually every part of our brain. Neuroimaging technologies like MRI and PET scans have shown us that even during sleep, all parts of the brain show some level of activity. In fact, most of the brain is active almost all the time. Each region of the brain has a specialized role. Some areas are responsible for basic functions like breathing and heart rate, while others handle more complex tasks like problem solving and language. When you're doing something as simple as peeling an orange or as complex as solving a mathematical equation, you're engaging multiple areas of your brain simultaneously. Even the seemingly quiet areas, often referred to as dark matter of the brain, are not slacking off. They're part of the brain's default mode network, which is active when you're daydreaming or letting your mind wander. So, no part of our brain is just sitting idle. In conclusion, the 10% myth is just that, a myth. It's a dramatic oversimplification of how our brains work. Our brains are incredibly complex and dynamic, with all areas contributing to the symphony of thoughts, actions, and experiences that make up our lives. Turns out we're using our brains to their full capacity after all. The scene script. Ever heard that the Great Wall of China is visible from space? Let's examine that. This popular myth has been circulating for decades, painting a picture of a colossal structure so immense it can be seen from the vast expanse of outer space. A testament to human ingenuity, the Great Wall of China spans an impressive 13,000 miles, making it one of the most significant architectural feats in history. But can this grand structure be observed from space? To answer this, we need to turn to those who've actually been there, astronauts. They've got the best seats in the house after all. So, what do they say? Well, despite the wall's impressive length, it's not quite as wide. In fact, the majority of the Great Wall measures just about 20 feet across. That's less than the width of a typical city road. From space, which is about 250 miles above Earth's surface, Spotting such a narrow structure becomes an astronomical challenge, pun intended. NASA astronaut Alan Bean once said, "The only thing you can see from the moon is a beautiful sphere, mostly white, some blue and patches of yellow, and every once in a while some green vegetation." He further added that, "No man-made object is visible at this scale." Even China's first man in space, Yang Liwei, confirmed that he couldn't see the Great Wall from space with his naked eye. And let's not forget Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, who tweeted from the International Space Station in 2013, "The Great Wall of China is not visible from orbit with the naked eye. It's too narrow and follows the natural contours of the landscape." So it seems this myth is just that, a myth. While the Great Wall of China is undoubtedly an impressive structure, its visibility from space isn't quite as clear-cut. Guess you'll need more than a trip to space to see the Great Wall. And finally, let's tackle the myth that bulls hate the color red. A classic scene we've all seen, whether in movies or real-life bullfights: a matador dressed in flamboyant attire, waving a bright red cape, and a bull charging at it with all the ferocity in the world. It's a spectacle that's led many to believe that bulls have a particular disdain for the color red. But let's delve a little deeper into this myth. The belief that bulls hate the color red likely stems from their aggressive response to a matador's muleta, the small red cloth they wave during a bullfight. It's a dramatic sight, and it's easy to understand why one might think the bull is seeing red, quite literally. However, science tells a different story. Bulls, like many other mammals, are dichromats. This means they only have 2 types of color receptors in their eyes, compared to the 3 that humans possess. The result? Bulls don't see the world in the same vibrant array of colors we do. In fact, they can't distinguish red at all. So if bulls can't see red, why do they charge at the matador's muleta? Well, it's not the color that gets bulls all riled up, it's the movement. Bulls respond to the motion of the matador's cloth, not the color. It's the waving, the fluttering, the movement that provokes the bull, not the hue of the fabric. The red color is more for the audience's benefit, adding to the drama and spectacle of the bullfight. In a nutshell, the idea that bulls hate the color red is a myth, born out of tradition and spectacle rather than scientific fact. So next time you see a bull charging at a red cloth, remember it's not seeing red, it's seeing movement. So no need to ditch your red outfits if you're planning a trip to Spain. Well, there you have it, 4 common myths debunked. We began our journey in the belly, where we discovered that swallowed gum doesn't pitch a tent and camp out for 7 years. Instead, it takes a relatively quick tour before making its exit. So, the next time you accidentally gulp down that chewy treat, you can rest easy knowing it's not setting up permanent residence. Then we ventured into the intricate maze of the human mind. We laughed in the face of the myth that we only use 10% of our brain. Turns out every nook and cranny of our gray matter is hard at work, each part playing its own unique role. So give your brain a pat on the back for working full-time even when you're sleeping. Next stop, the cosmos. We found that contrary to popular belief, the Great Wall of China is not visible from space with the naked eye. So astronauts can't take a quick peek at this architectural marvel while orbiting the Earth. Finally, we dashed into the bull ring only to find that bulls aren't raging against the color red. It's the movement, not the color, that gets their hooves stomping. So wearing red won't make you a bull's target, but flapping your cape might. Always remember, not everything you hear is true. Keep questioning, keep learning.